And this is, this could be like a little refreshing, especially because, like so many breakup songs are just like, die in a hole. Die in a hole. No respect given. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Bees. And it seems as though we're kind of on a streak of getting to some really requested albums and artists recently. So last week we did Sleep Token's new release. Everybody wanted me to react to Sleep Token at first. I had already listened to that last Sleep Token album before I started doing YouTube. And for tonight, in tonight's case, I've never listened to tonight's artist or tonight's album, and I'm very excited to finally deliver on something that you have all been requesting for a long time, and that is Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. I know virtually nothing about Olivia Rodrigo other than, and correct me if I'm wrong, former Disney Channel actress turned musician, pop star, performer, had a song called Driver's License, and fell into some slight, albeit pretty ridiculous controversy as far as maybe lifting some chord progressions or some vibes from previously made songs by other artists, namely Elvis Costello and Paramore. I don't know if those songs are going to be on this album. I have no idea what those songs are called. If those songs come up and I catch it, we'll talk about that. But other than that, I got no idea. I think as far as expectations from everything that I know, which again is barely anything, I think we're going to get a maybe more of a bubblegum pop thing going on here, which I'm quite excited for. So, I know we did the Taylor Swift series, which you may have watched, and thank you if you did. We're currently still on our Lana Del Rey journey at the moment. But even between some of the more recent Taylor Swift albums and a lot of the songs by Lana Del Rey, I feel like we haven't gotten like a hardcore pop thing in a while. Maybe like Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Roan might be the case. And that Chappell Roan video we did at the top of the year, that was on January 1st. So it's been quite a while since I've gotten just fun pop. I don't know. That's my expectation. Will that be shattered? I don't know. But before we get into it, please let me know your thoughts on my thoughts as we go through the album. Did you like my take here? Did you disagree with my take there? I'd love to know what you have to say. As you might see from the chat on screen, we are recording this live. If you want to catch us live, make sure you click one of the links down there in the description. And if you happen to miss one of our lives but still want to see these reactions uncut and unedited before they come out on YouTube, go ahead and click one of the links down in the description for my Patreon page, where you can get exactly that for $1 a month. $1. You go to Dollar Tree anymore. Actually, I haven't been to Dollar Tree in forever. I don't even know. But I can guarantee you there's not much that's still $1 that used to be $1. Jerry B's reactions are still $1.
It's good shit, pal.
Oh, yeah. Faux shiz.
Dollar Tree is a scam. Brave words. Olivia does more of a pop punk rock aesthetic, almost like Avril Lavigne. I have caught that in some online discourse as well, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, as far as how this sounds sonically, I'm not very sure, but this album cover is just so iconic. I mean, I've seen this album cover everywhere, especially when it was new. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I think we should just get into this right away. Excited to finally deliver on this for you all. This is Sour by Olivia Rodrigo from 2021. 11 songs, 34 minutes, 46 seconds. First song, Brutal.
I'm so insecure, I think that I'll die before I drink. And I'm so caught up in the news, I'm gonna cry, and I don't stick up for myself. I'm anxious and nothing can help, and I wish I'd done this before, and I wish people liked me more. All I did was try my best, it's the kind of things I did. I'm relentlessly upset. It's brutal out here. I'm not smart and I can't even parallel park. All I did was try my best. It's the kind of things I did. Got a broken
Okay, so not bubblegum pop. Definitely see where maybe the, pop punk kind of idea came from the chat. So this one was actually one that I was a little bit more in the know with, from what I had said earlier about some of the chord progressions or maybe some of the sounds that she quote unquote lifted from other songs, right? So this one is using that same riff that is used in Elvis Costello's Pump It Up. If you don't know Elvis Costello, go ahead and check him out. I love Elvis Costello a lot. This is probably his biggest song was Pump It Up. And it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. Now, as far as that whole controversy, because I know that there's another song by another artist that people felt like Olivia Rodrigo ripped on. In the case of this one, I had seen that Elvis Costello had replied on Twitter and said, I don't really give, he didn't say this exactly. He's like, I don't really give a damn that she did this because I lifted so many tunes from other people's songs into my songs, and that's just how it works. And I know that I had prefaced this by saying I thought it was going to be bubblegum pop, and it's not, but I think you can look at pop music as really a completely like umbrella thing. So we have like your pop stars, but I'm kind of in the opinion that like really anything you can tap your foot to is pop. And so when you're looking at it like that, you're going to run into the same tropes. You're going to run into the same chord progressions. Things are used and repurposed so many times. And actually here though, I feel like it's transformative enough and she gave it enough of her own kind of style, because it's not the same vocal delivery, right? It's very much not the same kind of vocal delivery. Elvis Costello is not a former Disney Channel star who's dropping F-bombs, right? So it's a classic sound that's being introduced to a new audience in a new way. This song is about, how hard it is like being a teenager, for crying out loud. And, I think it's a little bit worse now that, we just have like, oh, Jerry B's is going to save the internet and TikTok is bad. Well, to an extent, there's just so many studies about, how much more anxious teenagers of this generation and, recently, if you're talking about Gen Alpha, look at Gen Z and even millennials for that matter. Just the anxiety, whether it's the internet or just the geopolitical climate of things. I think this really is just, it's not the deepest thing in the world, but with a punk rock attitude, a punk rock chord progression, under 2.5 minutes, that's a punk song, right? Punk is famous for having those short in and out aggressive songs, and this fits the bill. Is it NoFX? Is it the Misfits? Is it Sum 41? Is it Turnstile, if you want to go for a more recent example? No, but it doesn't have to be. Definitely more on the pop punk side. Yeah, that's about it. And as far as an album opener, man, just me being like a previous Elvis Costello fan, thinking about Pump It Up, it's a great riff for what that original song is about, and it's a great album opener. So I'm really looking forward to where this goes. Hopefully that energy continues. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. All right, moving on. Liking it so far. Traitor.
Brown guilty eyes and little white lies. Yeah, I played dumb, but I always knew. And ain't it funny how you said you were friends? Now it sure as hell don't look like it. You betrayed me, and I know that you'll never feel sorry. For it took you 2 weeks to go off and date her. Guess you didn't cheat, but you're still a traitor. Now you bring her around just to shut me down, show her off like she's a new trophy.
This dude sucks.
I know all the twisted games, all the questions you used to avoid. Ain't it funny? Remember I brought her up as your worst, but that didn't matter. It took you 2 weeks
So the good news is he didn't cheat. Could have observed and practiced a little bit more class, it seems. And actually, as this song was going through, I might know a little bit more about this album and the Olivia Rodrigo story than I thought. Is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is about another dude that was on the High School Musical show, right? Is that correct? Okay. All right. Yeah. So homeboy could have observed a little bit more class. Don't cheat. You didn't cheat. I mean, it's like the easiest thing not to do as far as I'm concerned. You know, I am like, it's a little bit of whiplash considering like how excitable that last song was, and we're into this. Obviously, I think now that we started this album, just 2 songs in, we will gain more perspective as we go along, as far as just how an album flows, right? We talk about that a lot here on the channel. But what I'm finding so far in these 2 songs, I appreciate like the lack of subtlety, because, you know, like there's not a lot of like interpretation there. It's, this is what happened to me. This is how I feel. Take it or leave it. And I really appreciate that. And that rings true, at least with like the punk rock energy in the first song. And then, you know, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I think this is pretty indicative of the album cover itself. You know, she's got the stickers on. She's sticking her tongue out. She looks woefully unimpressed. Allegedly, the older woman is Sabrina. Sabrina Carpenter? What the fuck? The internet got very out of hand and basically being a bunch of high school relationship trauma. You don't need to send anyone death threats over and over. Death threats aren't the thing. Yeah, and going back to that idea on, you know, like lack of subtlety, I'm not going to take points off for it because so far this feels exactly what it was made for. You know, it's to identify with those people on the cusp, on the edge of 17, you know, on the edge of adulthood. You're having these identity crises. And I think, you know, poetry and symbolism and metaphor can get people thinking, especially if you're in that point in life, but also like you just need somebody to tell you what the deal is straight up. And so in that aspect, I think there's a lot of catharsis there. Also, I mean, her voice on this was also very, very good. We're moving on, and I don't think you could have escaped Driver's License at all. I've never listened to this full song, but this was when this song came out. I don't know if it was a single. I can't imagine that it wasn't, just considering how many plays it has. But this was like when Driver's License released, this was the first time I'd ever heard Olivia Rodrigo's name. And I'm not like the biggest TikTok dude. I knew it was big on TikTok. And I think I've heard little bits of this song. I think we're in store for a slower one. Who knows if it progresses into something a little bit more epic sounding, a little bit more momentous. But I think this is a slower one. So we'll get into Driver's License here.
I got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. Cause you were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house. But today I drove through the suburbs. Cause how could I ever love someone else? And I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. And I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. Guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Pictured I was driving home to you. And I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. I guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Red lights, stop signs, I still see your face in the white cars drive alone past your street.
So if we're running with the theme of this album maybe being a coming to age story, right? You know, when you are on that cusp of adulthood and leaving childhood behind and trying to figure out who you are, lyrically, a poos, right? I think using, I think that metaphor of a driver's license and of driving works really well in a few different ways here. So now, like, it can symbolize like this idea of freedom, and now you have the choice to choose which road to go down. Not to say that you haven't already been down roads, and those roads that you have been down manifest themselves in a relationship that you unfortunately were in and unfortunately not in anymore. So those roads that you have been driving down bring back all these memories. Sour memories, perhaps? Sour now, they weren't then. Bittersweet, perhaps. So it works really well for me there. And then where is this line? You know, this line, and I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. Raise your hand in the chat if you were a teenager at one point and had your heart broken, right? Hands in the chat. When canon event. Yeah, exactly, right? So I guess my point with this is it that just rings more true to the coming to age thing, because your sample size of life is so small that when you are finding love for the first time and you finally have that feeling, and then all of a sudden it's not reciprocal and that person is gone, you're like, how the fuck do I continue here? Like, what is even my next step? Juxtaposed with now having the freedom to go anywhere you want to. And there's this sense of, like, you know, the dog that finally catches up to the car. Like, well, okay, now what the hell do I do with it? You know what I mean? Joker moment, Jerry B's Joker moment. So, and again, there's not a ton of metaphor here. It's pretty straightforward, but given the themes that we've seen so far, those are my interpretations. That's how I think you can kind of extend that. You know, I mean, obviously her voice was great. I really liked how the bass was mixed in this one. I think it's, you know, because I love me some of my slower jams, right? Give me some Wilco. Give me some of, like, low down piano with, like, Dr. John, the sadder Billy Joel stuff, you know, it just, for lack of better examples. I don't think the song and like sonically it hit me that much, but lyrically, for its place on the album, for the 3 songs that we've heard so far, this works very, very well. Okay, so moving on here, folks. Moving on. Really like this one. 1 step forward, 3 steps back.
Somehow I still struck a nerve. You got me fucked up in the head, boy. Never doubted myself so much. Like, am I pretty? Am I fun, boy? It's always 1 step forward and 3 steps back. Do you love me, want me, hate me? Boy, I don't understand. No, I don't understand. Hey, will you walk me to the door, send me home crying? It's 1 step forward and 3 steps back. I'm the love of your life until I make you mad. It's always 1 step forward and 3 steps back. Do you love me, want me, hate me? Boy, I don't understand. And it's back and forth. Did I do something wrong? It's back and forth. Maybe this is all your fault. Instead, it's 1 step forward and 3 steps back. Do you love me, want me, hate me? Boy, I don't understand. No, I don't understand.
So this song was composed by Jack Antonoff and what is it? Taylor Swift? Huh. I think I've heard that name before. You know, considering, you know, I'm kind of looking at these last 3 songs as like a 3-song run. You know, that first song was all about just like, that like those existential crises that we feel when we're, 17 in high school, trying to find ourselves, trying to just survive into this world that we don't know yet. And we're kind of in this 3-song run where, between Driver's License, between Traitor, between One Step Forward, 3 Steps Back, of navigating, a serious relationship for the first time. And of course, maybe a breakup of a serious relationship and all of the, mental gymnastics that you kind of have to go through to survive any of that and to keep yourself sane. It's like, oh, is this me? Is this you? Like, what the hell? It's like, I don't know. And, it just calls out that confusion there. You know what? Somebody said that Olivia was wise beyond her years. She's out here saying, boy, I don't understand. No, I don't understand. What did Socrates say, everybody? True wisdom comes from, like, realizing that you don't know anything. So maybe she is wise beyond her years. I really give her all the credit in the world, though, for just keeping it straightforward so far. Another thing about her voice, she's been able to belt it out, and it sounds really nice. Any other point than that, it's like just a very popular thing anymore. It is like whisper singing, which is like huge. And I can take or leave a lot of that, but I feel like she's coming at it from a little bit more melodic, like in a little bit more of a melodic way that I can really get down with, to where it's like I kind of have to listen for it to hear it. But I think this song is just a continuation of that. Now we'll see what we get into with the next song that kind of carries on the same narrative. If, this relationship and, and this heartbreak is going to be a reoccurring theme. I'm not going to be upset if it does, but I think if it ends here and then is maybe revisited much later on in the album, I think this works as a nice little trilogy, so to speak. Moving on. Deja Vu.
Reruns of Glee being annoying, singing in harmony. I bet she's bragging to all her friends, saying you're so unique. So when you gonna tell her that we did that too? She thinks it's special, but it's all real. Get deja vu, Do you call her? Almost say my name, 'cause let's be honest. When you gonna tell her that we did that too? She thinks it's special, but it's all we use. That was the show we talked about. Played you the song she's singing now when she's with you. Do you get deja vu when she's with you? Cherry ice cream in Malibu. Don't act like we didn't do that shit too. You're treating jackets like we used to do. Everything is all we use. Play her piano, but she doesn't know that I was the one who taught you Billy Joel. A different girl now, but there's nothing. I know you get deja vu.
Dude, I didn't know that she'd reference Billy Joel after I would bring it up. A plus for the Billy Joel reference. At first I was going to say, well, there goes so much for my, like, 3 songs, like trilogy little arc that we're going over, because we are still kind of continuing the anguish, the aftermath from that relationship, but in a different perspective here with different sounds as well. So we're kind of entering like this alternative indie kind of sound with like the mismatched percussions and the synth going on in the background. And it's more so, it's not so much like, hey, this is how like you've made me feel. This is, I bet you're doing all, like, you're just running through our emotions, dude. You're just running through the same motions that we did, using deja vu with that, right? I think that's pretty clear there. But I like this, just a small little line, watching reruns of Glee. Sure, that's something that they used to do together, but just knowing Rerun, Deja Vu, doing the same thing again. You know, I think that one little line adds a little bit more to me than I think maybe I would have had I not been doing this, right? And what am I doing? I'm react to it the first time. I'm not going to catch every little detail as it comes along, nor should you. I think you're kind of an insane person if you can clock literally everything. Or maybe I'm just mad because I'm not that smart. But gotta love Billy Joel. I have immediate family members of mine that like despise Billy Joel, and I will never understand that. The Stranger is one of the greatest albums of all time. I have 2 notes on that album, and that is it. If I'm driving, road trip, multiple hours, I have to fight the urge to play that album. I love that album so goddamn much. And this Taylor Swift lady came and composed this one again. Yeah, really liking her stuff on this as far as the composition's concerned. You know, I hope that she finds her way through the music industry quite well, because I'm liking everything that I'm hearing so far out of this. I do know this one now that I'm looking at the title. This is another one that I brought up, or I alluded to earlier in the reaction, as far as I know, that there is a couple songs that people claim that she kind of lifted the progressions out of. We'll get into that after we listen to it. I think I've heard this song all the way through before. I didn't know it was on this album. So whether or not this is it's for all intents and purposes, it's a reaction, because I've never like read along with the lyrics or anything like that, but this is good for you.
Couple weeks, remember when you said that you wanted to give me the world? And good for you, I guess that you're a brand new girl. Well, good for you, you look happy and healthy, not me, if you ever cared to ask. Good for you, you're doing great out there without me, baby. Gotta wish that I could do that, I guess. Good for you. Good for you, I guess you're getting everything you want. You bought a new car and your career's really taking off. It's like we never even happened, baby. What the fuck? I have to hurt the way you know that I do. Well, good for you, you look happy and healthy, not me, if you ever cared. Maybe I'm too emotional, but your apathy's like a wounded soul. Maybe I'm too emotional, maybe you never cared at all. Maybe I'm too emotional, your apathy is like a wounded soul. Maybe you look happy and healthy, not me, if you ever cared to ask. Good for you.
Where's the drop? Where's the drop?
Like a damn sociopath, I've lost my mind. I've spent the night crying on the floor of my bed. Good for you, I guess you moved on really easily.
Oh, and then just hits us right there with a 1-2 punch at the end. You know, we'll just get into it. The chorus, it's Misery Business by Paramore, right? An absolutely iconic song from its era, and still, it's still such a good song. Paramore is like a goddamn near perfect band, in my opinion. It's just Haley Williams and the 2 other guys. Whoever else is in that band, I don't give a shit. You know, so this was like another one of those. You know, the chorus, it's the same progression, and it doesn't hit as hard, but it doesn't have to, because I'm listening to it knowing that it's Misery Business by Paramore. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, as far as like songs that sound like this, which one would I rather listen to? You know, it just, the Misery Business one hits so hard. But let's look at it for what it is. This is Olivia's song. There's way more transformative stuff going on here. This is not just simply a Misery Business lift, especially in this part. Right? Just the guitar, it's not as distorted. It's a little bit brighter. They're using I want to say that's a compression pedal. I'm like a slightly knowledgeable on like guitar tech. Not even at all. So if you're more knowledgeable on guitar pedals and effects, please do let me know. But I can tell you that kind of like guitar sound, it's a little bit brighter, And it's used like, I want to say like, I hear that a lot in like the Replacements, for example. So you want to talk about, you know, maybe a little bit more alternative punk bands from, you know, the late 70s into the 80s. There's a couple ways to do it. So it's either you use this as like, hey, I'm paying homage to you. You know, I'm wearing my inspirations on my sleeve. And I think she's doing that in a couple different ways. Through Paramore, you know, as far as like, this is like a little bit more aggressive. I'm mad, I'm pissed off, and I want people to know. That progression and that melody works really well for it. But then on the other end, there are a little bit more details that I can identify with just how the guitar is kind of toned, knowing that there's already inspiration through Elvis Costello and fucking Billy Joel too. Fucking Olivia Rodrigo's a classic rock lady. And it's even more transformed because we get into the verse.
Good for you, I guess you're getting everything you want. You bought a new car and your career's really...
You know, that like hip hop, like that old school hip hop bass line is there too. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people in music spaces on the internet right now, right, where I think the big talking point is the, you know, the Doechii song where, you know, she samples Gautier's, somebody that I used to know. I don't know why that took me so goddamn. Where I've defended Doechii in the sense that, like, look, Gautier said anybody could, like, I don't really want to make money off of this shit, and anybody can sample this. It's what I made it for, right? I do agree with people in the sense that, like, you know, you can sample it. Maybe we wanted something maybe a little bit more transformative out of it. Especially if not anything but the intro. Where here, I feel like Olivia's putting her own stylings on it to where I can hear it and go, no, this is totally, I think it evolves past lifting a melody or lifting a chord progression into wearing my inspirations on my sleeve and trying to make it my own thing. You know, I can confidently say I don't know anything else. I can confidently say I know fuck all going forward. Enough for you. Wait, hold on real quick though. Why isn't this for you? So good for you, right? This is enough for you. Why isn't it number 4 letter U? That's my question. Enough for you.
Prom queens, I know that you loved before. Tried so hard to be everything that you like, just for you to say you're not the compliment type. You found someone more exciting the next second you were gone, and you left me there crying, wondering what I did wrong. And you always say I'm never satisfied, but I don't think that's true. 'Cause all I ever wanted was to be enough for you. Now I don't want your sympathy, I just want myself back before you found someone more exciting the next second you were gone. And you say I'm never satisfied, but I don't think that's true. 'Cause all I ever wanted was to be enough. Don't you think I loved you too much to be used and discarded? Don't you think so? 'Cause someday I'll be everything to somebody else. They'll think that I am so exciting, and you'll be the one who's crying for you. Enough for you. No, nothing's enough for you.
So, full stop here, ladies and gents. Yeah, the pop punk stuff is fun. The sad piano ballads hit. But ladies and gentlemen, I need more folkier sounding stuff from Olivia Rodrigo. That's just full stop. I thought that her voice worked really well over those acoustic guitars. Like, in a way that her voice has really gotten through to me more than I think any other song has on the album so far. And it was simple. And I think that's another running theme here. I think she's doing the most with very little. Less is more. which is great because it makes it very easily accessible for people, right? And here we're getting on this other idea. So, I think you can kind of throw that, maybe 3-song trilogy idea that I had completely out of the window by this point. This seems to be a very central theme of the album is, the journey that she took and was probably still taking by the time that she was recording all of this, and maybe even still, I don't know. This song touches on another aspect of the whole, you're a teenager and you get your heart broken for the first time, is this idea of self-worth and self-image. So self-image, from looking like other prom queens, you want to look good for this person who gives you meaning in life, right? You're kind of doing that, for anybody that isn't your mom. And then there's this obviously here it's not that great, the self-image part, stupid, emotional, obsessive little me. And I think it sucks to say it, but as somebody who raised their hand, got their heart broken when they were a teenager, learned a lot about myself, and hopefully you all who raised your hands here in the chat learned a lot about yourself and what you were looking for in another relationship down the line, and you learn from it and you grow from it, and it seems that that's exactly what she ends up doing, because someday I'll be everything to somebody else. So, and they'll think that I'm so exciting. So she's turning that, she's turning the tables, so to speak, on that. And she's kind of looking for the road ahead, but you got to get yourself out of the mud hole first. Moving on. We have Happier.
Who brings out the better in you? And I thought my heart was detached from all the sunlight of our past, but she's so sweet. To find someone great, but don't find no one better. I hope you're happy, but don't be happier. And do you tell her she's the most beautiful girl you've ever seen? An eternal love bullshit, you'll never mean. Remember when I believed you meant it when you said it first to me. You're happy, but not like how you were with me. I'm selfish, I know. I can't let you go. So find someone great, but don't find no one better. I hope happy, but don't be happier.
I feel like my face is about to get melted by a guitar. Maybe not. I don't know.
How you were with me, I'm selfish, I know. Can't let you go. So find someone great, but don't find no one better. I hope you're happy, but don't be happier.
So, I enjoy, this side of things where she's already kind of admitted that, she's got this selfish edge to her, especially when it comes to this breakup, right? Because obviously, you're looking out for you and how you're going to survive this new way of life without this person who gave you so much meaning to it otherwise. And you still want them to be happy, but not in the same way, and definitely not happier. Other than just reiterating what the song is about there, I really thought there was this part in the song where we get this almost Tame Impala bass coming through, and I was expecting a psych rock guitar solo at some point, but I guess other than that, I can just say that it kept me on my toes to that degree. So, at least for how Spotify kind of shows the lyrics here, we get the little eighth note. Is that a quarter note? I think that's an eighth note. To just say that, this is more of an instrumental section right here. And I was really hoping to get something like that there, and we didn't. But at the end of the day, it still just kind of kept me on my toes a little bit. And this is, this could be a little refreshing, especially because, so many breakup songs are just die in a hole. Die in a hole. No respect given, and judging from case by case basis. maybe I hope nobody does, right? But, you can extrapolate that one step down and just go, I hope nothing good ever happens to you again, right? And that might be a little short-sighted here. And I think that's just like a natural thing to say. Like, no, I'd still be happy, but also like definitely not in the same ways that I made you happy. And not to discount it to any degree, it's just a bunch of piano ballads with a couple of more upbeat songs with some interesting songwriting. Driver's License especially. But we'll get into my thoughts overall as the album ends. Moving on, Jealousy.
I don't wanna throw my phone across the room, 'cause all I see are girls too good to be true, with paper white teeth and perfect bodies. Wish I didn't care. I know their beauty's not my like. Comparison is killing me slowly. I think too much about kids who don't know me. I'm so sick of myself. Rather be anyone else. But jealousy started following me. Patient photos, I can't stand it. Oh God, I sound crazy. Their win is not my loss. I know it's true, but I can't help getting caught up in love. Who don't know me, and I'm so sick of myself. He started following me.
Just a little fun alt pop jam, everybody. Alt pop rock, even. And this goes back to something I brought up earlier with, all you kids and your TikTokers and your Snap faces and, it's already hard enough dealing with anxiety, being, on the cusp of adulthood from ages like 15 to 18, with like social media, just kind of like turning the dial up on all that. I'm not going to get into that too much. What's been said about that's been said about it. Right. But this is just showing that. And I don't know if this is a double entendre, but I'm going to call it a double entendre. Jealousy started following me in maybe a more metaphorical sense, but started maybe following me literally on Instagram, on TikTok, right? So she's following all these other people, comparing their highlights to, whatever sullen situation you might be in, making you feel bad about yourself. Again, I think self-image and self-esteem has really been a pretty consistent theme throughout this album. And I think it's kind of at the stage in center stage here. And it comes off pretty good, and I'd say almost better than it would be if it was like, just maybe another piano ballad. It's something to kind of wave your body to, and it has that edge to it, which I think can kind of play into just like how sick it makes you feel. You know what I mean? It's just slightly more aggressive, but nothing that overpowers anything else that the album has laid out for us so far. Comparison is the thief of joy, everybody. Comparison is killing me slowly. Now, like, comparison's nice. Let's say you join a softball team, and you're like, I haven't played softball, like, ever. Played t-ball when I was a kid. But you want to meet new people. This is a very specific example. And you don't know how to swing the bat, but here's this dude on the team who's been playing for a while. And you just go, oh, I see what he does with his leg there. That's what I'm gonna do. Compare yourself like that. Like, oh, I don't kick my leg like that. Compare yourself like that. But if it's like, Jenna's in Cabo for the 4th time this year, and you're really pissed off that Jenna's in Cabo for the 4th time this year, don't do that. Jenna probably sucks. Jenna is probably a terrible person. All right, moving on. Favorite crime. Folks, we got folk.
Know that I loved you so bad, I bore our hands bloody. The things I did just so I could call you mine. The things you did, well, I hope I was your favorite crime. All the things I did, just so I could call you mine. The things you did, well, I hope I was your favorite crime. It's bittersweet to think about the damage that we do. Oh, look what we became. All the things I did, just so I could call you mine. Favorite crime. Your favorite crime. 'Cause baby, you were mine.
Not just because it's a little bit more folky, but I've noticed this in some of her other songs. She gets, I get this feeling that like she takes some inspiration from Marcus Mumford from her voice. Like the way that she's ending some of these lines is, I feel very familiar to how Marcus Mumford would sing, kind of compose his melodies in the first couple Mumford and Sons albums. Those were the only two I listened to. I listened to the singles from the third album and it was like, not for me. So I never listened to it. But I really do like those first two Mumford & Sons albums. The debut Mumford & Sons album is terrific. One of the things I can appreciate in this album as we continue is like, she's not reinventing any wheels here. And I think if you're looking at somebody who's, you know, as young as Olivia, if you are reinventing, you know, if you're really being a trailblazer or anything, I think she'd be even bigger than she got and still is, you know, and I know the fan base is quite fervent in and of itself, but I think remaining accessible has really helped her, and at least helped me listening and get to know this album because of the themes, right? Because we're making our way into adulthood and that kind of thing. So these just stripped down themes and even songs. I mean, the song's 2.5 minutes long. It's not overstaying its welcome at all. She has a thing to say. She says it, figures out a way how to say it, and that comes into terms, okay, is this going to be piano based, folk based, maybe a little bit more rocky, a little bit more funky. Moving on. Hope you're okay.
You were a boy once when I was small, a towhead blonde with eyes of salt. He played the drum in the marching band. Hope he took his bad deal and made a royal flush. Don't know if I'll see you again someday, but if you're out there, I hope that you're okay. She couldn't wait to go to college. She was tired 'cause she was brought into a world where family was merely blood. We don't talk much, but I just gotta say, I miss you. And I hope that you're okay. Address the letters to the holes in my butterfly wing. Lead them to your house. Every door is hard to close. Well, I hope you know how proud I am you were created with the courage to unlearn all of their hatred. God, I hope that you're happier today, 'cause I love you. And I hope that you're okay.
Oh shit. Was that the end of the album? Oh my God. That was was the end of the album. Wow, that leaves me. I wanted a little bit more after that. Okay. So for Hope You're Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of good things to say on that one. I love the bass forwardness of that one. The low ends carried that one, and I felt like the only high end I was really paying attention to was Olivia's voice there. And that brought some really good things to the table, which I'll be honest, I was kind of missing as the album was going through. And that is like these other aspects of growing up and getting older, losing touch with friends, wishing you'd see people more. And, obviously a story of somebody who otherwise, had a pretty tough growing up, right? So this isn't the song. His parents cared more about the Bible than being good to their own child. Loving the close rhyme there, but also, I think hopefully, you grew up as well as you could have in your family situation. And, I think even as your kids, so, this was somebody from middle school, he played drum in the marching band. You can kind of see when, maybe you have it better than somebody else when it comes to like familial relationships and things like that. And obviously, there's even more tough going on here. He wore long sleeves because of his dad. I think you can insinuate a couple things from that. Of course, it's not our choice. He took his bad deal and made a royal flush. These other aspects of maybe losing touch with friends, seeing how other, people are growing up. I think at a certain point, obviously, until you're 18, you even buying alcohol, even at 21, I think you're still a kid. But, as people develop, you get a sense of sympathy and caring, especially as you lose contact with these people. And I think that was a theme I wanted to see a little bit more of that as we continued, but and obviously that just wasn't like the focal point of the album. And I'm not going to really knock it for that, but I will segue that into my final thoughts on the album, which this did not disappoint, ladies and gentlemen. I mentioned it during, what song was that? Favorite Crime. You should really call this album short and sweet. It's, 34 minutes long. A lot of these songs aren't even 3 minutes long or just a touch over 2.5 minutes long. And I can really appreciate the sense of this is the scope of the album. This is the limited scope of the album. This is what I want to say. Nothing more, nothing less. And I even think that you can get more out of an album sometimes when you have less time to spend with it. It can create a space where it's a little bit more dense. I think there's a lot of creativity that can happen when you set constraints like that. For me, I think a lot of the piano ballads sonically didn't hit for me, but I appreciated the lyrics. I appreciated how the messages and the themes were delivered. I think Driver's License is a better song than I think anybody can give it credit for, if I'm being completely honest for you. There was a lot of double meanings there that I really, really got down with. And I think the piano ballad kind of sound is the main sound of the album, but we had the folkier kind of stuff, right? Favorite Crime was one. So between Enough for You and Favorite Crime, then we get, some alternative flavorings in Hope You're Okay. Jealousy, I think was another one. And then, these high energy, punkier kind of sounds with Brutal and Good For You, which I think normally, what I was expecting was high energy with breaks of piano, and what we got was piano with maybe breaks of, high energy, or maybe some other kinds of stuff with maybe some of the funkier alt stuff going on. I think she said some stuff about how people are going through rough times in their teenage years, don't always get those typical teenage experiences like heartbreak, so she wanted to close with an ode to them. Yeah, no, I think, I remember when she went on to, like, her last, like, big tour, I was getting, like, clips of, like, just, like, these, even, like, 8-year-old girls, and I don't think there's anything wrong with You know, because I was listening to songs with the F word in it at a really young age. But to have somebody who, like, honestly has their best interests at heart, and honestly, I mean, if we're going over just like, you know, popular pop stars and other things that I've reacted to on this channel, I feel that the messaging here is maybe a little bit easier for maybe just the standard parent to be permissible for, like, as opposed to like maybe like Chapel Roan, where what are they doing to each other? What does she want to do? What is she doing right now? Outside of Pink Pony Club. Pink Pony Club is high art. Pink Pony Club is high art. But I think this was valid in the sense that it was so big, especially knowing that, like, Driver's License, you know, that was the first time I'd ever heard the name Olivia Rodrigo. That makes complete sense. And so I'm very excited to see what she continues to do. And I may even be excited to get into Guts. If you want me to react to Guts, which you probably do if you watch this whole video, please let me know down in the comments. I normally dislike the idea of less than 3 minutes for a song, but it works here so well because Olivia knew what she wanted to say, didn't linger, just moved right along to the next thing. Even though, like, the next thing was this relationship, as somebody who's listening to the album, I may want something more out of it, but at the end of the album, you have to look at it for what it is. You have to look at it for what it is. And I think she did a decent job at looking. So sure, it's about one heartbreak with one person, but there's multiple emotions and multiple angles that you can take. Good for you. Like, I already started going to therapy. Good for you. You know, like, whatever. Or like Happier, where it's like, I want you to be happy, but, like, to think of you being happier than you were with me fucking kills me. You know what I mean? Or, you know, those songs where it's in Traitor, for example, right? Where you're just like the scum of the earth. You know, you go through these fluctuating emotions. So in that sense, they did a pretty good job. You know, it's not just 11 songs of you broke my heart and I'm sad. It's 11 songs of you broke my heart and here's 11 ways how I feel about it. And not every song was about that. I think that storyline is kind of bookended by Hope You're Okay and with Brutal, where Brutal was kind of maybe this overarching, like, oh my God, I'm growing up, this world is fucking crazy, like, how the hell am I supposed to deal with things? And Hope You're Okay is a much more sentimental kind of track. So those two tracks bookend the rest of that. So, and how that's organized, I think that works quite well. And so with Brutal and Hope You're Okay, those are just things to think about that may kind of take you out of that headspace, so to speak. So that was my reaction to Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. Please let me know your thoughts on my thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you want to catch us live, make sure you click one of the links down in the description and subscribe to me here on YouTube or for free on my Patreon, where I announce when I'm going live and what I'm going to be reacting to. If you happen to miss any of those streams and want to catch my reactions unedited, make sure you check out the Patreon, where you can get just that for $1 a month. Be crazy if I charged you $1 a week, wouldn't it? $1 a day? But with that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog.